the Around the NFL podcast. Survived the Swiftie takeover.
From the Chris Wesseling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. I am Dan Hanzus. Heroes here, Gregg Rosenthal, Marc Sessler. Yes, you did 6 shows and 7 nights here at SoFi Stadium, and now it is over. No more cars in the parking lot. No more maniacal fans. No more screaming. It's over.
Well, I mean, we were here typically in the morning to early afternoon hours. I didn't even notice it. I mean, I drive in and out. Did you? Was there something happening?
Some extra grinding from Daddy. Daddy was at the Hard Knocks stuff on Tuesday, which took us right into another Swiftie explosion.
Right.
You are the daddy in this case.
Oh, well, obviously.
Our daddy?
I could if you want. We got that conversation. I don't.
No, you are young.
I'm already a daddy to 2 sons. I don't. The whole dynamic would make me.
I'm not looking for you to be my father. That was
Right.
a Gregg request.
No, I'm not either. It's just confusing because technically we were all father
right.
of 2 children.
Well,
yes.
You know.
Yes, true. One other note that I didn't mention about that concert. The second song is the song that's a huge fan favorite called Cruel Summer. And now I know what it was like to see the Beatles. 75,000 people in that building. Every and many women and girls, as I told you yesterday.
Right, sure.
Screaming at the top of their lungs, either the lyrics to the song or just screaming, out of control screaming. Couldn't hear Taylor Swift. I could see her. You could hear the bass thumping, but you actually couldn't hear her because the crowd was going that ballistic.
Yeah, I saw lots of video of like girls
It's crazy.
breaking down crying, like literally melting.
It's nuts.
To tears.
You should have tried to quiet them down. You're like trying to listen.
Quiet, Daddy's trying to enjoy the show. That's weird too.
You know who I saw in the huddle yesterday? It's kind of reminded me of old NFL times where you just see random athletes in the huddle. Chris Johnson, the great Titans
2,000-yard rusher.
And I told him he was once because he was walking around with our friend David Singer, and we were talking, and told him he was once on the cover of a magazine I produced, the old fantasy magazine, and it reminded me, the Road World magazine.
You told him that?
I did.
What was his reaction? Was it a Taylor Swift type?
We were talking fantasy, just how crazy people were.
I mean, he was like a superstar in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's a wild thing to be like, hey, did you know you were on the cover of a magazine once?
I was just like, it reminded me how, we're here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio, that Chris Wesseling at least partly made his name on rotoworld.com. I would say a solid brick in the foundation of rotoworld.com was on Chris Wesseling's Chris Johnson take. That I think it was his rookie, and it reminded me with this training camp coming up, it was his rookie training camp, that Chris planted a flag as hard as you could possibly plant a flag, that not only will Chris Johnson be a factor, but he will win you your fantasy league, and he's going to be one of the fantasy stories. And he couldn't have been more aggressive about it, and just putting him aggressively atop the rankings, and everyone's like, okay, wow, Chris Wesseling. And then it came so true. I feel like even for years he was living off the fumes of his great Chris
and
Johnson.
His personal website had some incredible Chris Johnson write-ups. And I think in general, around this time when these preseason games would get started, and you could argue to their relative meaninglessness compared to what comes next, but he would always have 1 or 2 running backs, especially at that position, that say, I'm watching them. I see how fit they are. They look different than ever before. They're going to explode. And then you're in week 3, week 4, and he's completely right.
It was like you with Toby Gerhart a few years back.
Well, that was two making the leap articles on Toby Gerhart didn't push him over the finish line. So
2009, Chris Johnson, 2,006 yards, 14 touchdowns rushing, 16 total, averaging 125 yards per game. He won Offensive Player of the Year for
2,500 yards from scrimmage. Is that the most ever?
If it's not the most, it's close. And it's cautionary tale, of course, because he had 50 catches. Yeah, he had 400 touches. Had 1 Pro Bowl the next year, and then was never a Pro Bowler again or an All Pro.
It is, by the way. That's kind of an underrated record. As NFL records going, gaining the most amount of yards of anyone in the history of the sport.
Whose record did he break?
Season.
Marshall Faulk.
Christian
McCaffrey's number 3.
Interesting. Yeah, and early in our tenure, Mark, he was kind of like the first running back to fail in his attempt to get paid. Remember that totally ponderous holdout that became a major storyline throughout the 2011 offseason or 2010 offseason going into 2011. He wanted quarterback money. Think about that and how much the league has changed. He wanted quarterback superstar money coming 2 years off his.
I mean, he was their quarterback for half the time.
Right, coming off his 2,000-yard season, and he had to settle for a nice deal but nowhere near quarterback money. Now these guys are just trying to get, like, safety money. So
yeah, it's gone south.
It's going in the wrong direction.
6 straight years of 1,400 yards from scrimmage. I mean, I guess he's not even getting considered at all for Hall of Fame stuff, but that's pretty good. That's better than
he peaked early. I mean, that would be the only thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, good Chris Johnson talk. What did he say when you said you were on a magazine?
Yeah,
cover
what was his?
once?
The way I put it, I was just like, I don't even know how. We were talking for a few minutes, like it was taking a while for that sandwich to come, to the point where I was like, I think we all were ready to move on in our lives. But he was very cool. We were having a good talk. I don't remember.
Do you think,
what he
Mark?
said.
Do you think he remembers the conversation he had with Gregg yesterday?
I think it's probably, if he sort of scans this entire trip to the West Coast, it's got to be in the top 2 or 3 things that occurred to him.
It was
Because he
just
met
like
Gregg. I mean,
a
he
bunch
probably
of
know-
squares at that NFL Network building, but there was
There's
that
one
little
guy.
guy that was pretty cool in the lunchroom.
That one dude. Yeah, so that's the Chris Johnson tale. We have some fun stuff to get to. We have Eric Edholm coming up to talk power rankings. How about that? We'll get to that in a second. We also have football games, kind of, starting this weekend, starting tonight, in fact, Thursday, a couple games tonight, and then games through Sunday, the first full week of preseason action, and we're going to kind of spin through the schedule of games and share some things that we're looking forward to. Well, some of us are looking forward to.
Yeah, well, we don't have the same take on the preseason, and I'm surprised that I'm the guy, not even the most cynical preseason observer in this room.
Like, if I could, like the bit you did where you just got up and left the room during our quarterback conversation.
That was not a bit.
Well, then why are we doing this segment?
Because I am not a monster, and I know how much you guys
But I
love
actually think
the
you might have
preseason.
suggested it.
No, I was like, yeah. Yesterday it was like,
You did suggest
should we
it.
do hit the preseason as like part of the show tomorrow? And everybody's like, yeah, good. And then we got on the phone today. I was like, Mark's like, I have 700 takes that are ready to share for the preseason.
No,
I was like,
I
oh
would say this.
boy.
I would argue this because I think normally I think the preseason starts and you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is terrible. But
And it is.
right, but this time around, I think that you got a lot of rookie heat at wide receiver, at quarterback, and it's a little bit different. You got some teams that seem a little bit different.
Save it.
That's all.
Save it. Not only do we have that,
This
but
is our product to peddle, and
I
I appreciate the product.
I actually have a gift.
That's what I mean. It's a little out of character for you to
What?
fall
I
into
like
line with the corporate machine, and I like it. We need
need
more of it.
This is not on. I think if you go and look at the hours leading up to the first week of preseason, I'm jazzed up. But I do admit that about 10 minutes into Patriots Texans at 4:10 p.m. on the West Coast, you can be like, this is not a real product.
That's what kills me about
Get to
it.
me in September.
I've done it before. I try to get excited about the preseason.
Right.
And trust me, what we're going to talk about, and that's why I wasn't a jerk about it yesterday. I was even like, yeah, let's do it. I like the idea of the stories and who's going to win this job and that job. But then the games start, and I'm like, oh, boy, I shouldn't say too much, actually.
Right.
Just-
All right, we'll be back Monday.
Yes. The games are still better than nothing. Okay?
I mean, our boss,
Are they?
who was also in the huddle yesterday, Roger Goodell, was there. Did not get a chance to speak with him.
Tell him that he's been on a magazine
But he
cover.
was walking around talking to some interns, I believe.
So
Nice
I
move.
had a near Goodell run-in
But-
because Patrick Claybon was coming up the
Mm.
stairs from our
Yes.
the basement level makeup area, and he said Goodell's down there, and so I had a hobo's paper bag of clothing that now
I noticed that bag in
Well,
the studio
they-
yesterday. It looked a little
you put it in the
sad,
in
yeah.
the bag, and then it was sad. But, so I'm walking down the corridor. There's a gaggle of high looking officials, and I was not allowed into the men's locker room because apparently Goodell was in there changing. So I was told by someone that I'm not going to say it was like, please come back later, not for you right now.
Of course.
So my sad little paper bag and I turned around.
I'm picturing you with like the hobo stick with the bandana with the stuff
Not
in
far
it, just
from it.
walking down the
I
highway.
think if I had not had the bag, they would have let me in the room.
I brought him up, and we didn't get a chance to talk, unfortunately. I've actually never really spoken with Roger Goodell in my life. So
Oh, we have.
Definitely
Hanzus.
multiple conversations.
Good ones.
Good one, yeah, really nice.
But he tried to squash another week out of the preseason. Remember? I mean, he was moving hard, and he got so much pushback. So I mean, he kind of shared your view. He was trying to get it down to.
Do we have a preseason promo read later?
We do.
Okay, I want the Shadowy League figures to know that I'm going all the way in. I'm going hard on that read because I like it here. All right, before we get to Eric Edholm, let's hit one bit of news. Not a bunch going on, considering we just did a show yesterday. But, the defending world champion Chiefs are a team that need Chris Jones in the building. And he's not, because Chris Jones is a holdout. He wants to be paid at the highest levels in terms of defenders in the NFL. However, Brett Veach, who you mocked famously a few years back, Greg, but then walked that back and apologized.
Before he won multiple
now we're
Super
all
Bowls.
good.
I mean, the whole thing was I just made a funny voice and pretended to be.
I think you belittled the
It was a
man.
little
That's the
less.
word I
bit.
use.
Yeah.
It was a little less about him personally, and just he just got caught in the comedy crossfire.
Sometimes when it's pure comic genius, like
Yeah.
sometimes you just catch a stray and
No
it's
surrender.
all in the game.
Yep, no surrender.
It's all in the game. GM of the Chiefs, Brett Veach, told The Athletic on Wednesday, do not expect Chris Jones to be sent out of town. They have no intention. Here's the quote. We have no intentions of trading Chris. Since the start of the offseason, Chris has been right at the top of our priorities. Every year, it's a different scenario and a different dynamic. One of the dynamics this year was the fact that some of the players in that position group didn't get done until late, so there was a natural holding pattern. He's entering the final year, Chris Jones, of his 4-year, $80 million contract. He wants a big-time extension. The highest-paid player, by the way, at his position is Aaron Donald, who got 3 for $95 last summer. Quinnen Williams most recently got the bag, 4 for $96. So you could figure out, again, different angle than Greg. You've been on the agents recently. I'm more like, it's all just, all the contracts now are built out.
Yeah.
So if you're Chris Jones, be like, excuse me, management, I'm good. And now you go back to the Chiefs and I say, Quinnen Williams, 4 for 96. I would like 4 for 104.
That's all you do. A total snooze fest of a situation, because of course he's going to get paid.
And you keep the commission.
Right.
It's a bonkers financial strategy.
He's going to get paid. We'll just check back in a fortnight.
I believe so. I think I want to just give a round of applause to us, the football cognoscenti, that how little attention this has gotten. Nick Bosa is a holdout. Chris Jones is a holdout. These are two of the best players in the league. That certainly would be the best 2 free agents in the league next year if they got to free agency. And yet there's almost been no attention. I mean, back in the day, we were writing daily stories about Javon Walker. I don't know why the Javon Walker holdout is the one that really scarred me. It's probably because they don't play quarterback, and people ultimately just don't care about non-quarterbacks. But like Nick Bosa, Chris Jones, and then I would throw Josh Jacobs in there holding out, has gotten almost no attention.
I remember back in the day writing roughly like 412 meaningless updates about Matt Forte trying to get paid with the Bears. It was just like gun to head.
Toughy.
And then it just happened. It's like just now, I think we are learning. Just stay silent, put head to ground, and it will happen at some point.
There's like an outside chance, I feel like, these could go into like the week before week 1. It'd be a little surprising if anyone missed time. Maybe Josh Jacobs would be the one
that one feels a little
angry enough.
The only thing that, as a Chiefs fan, I wouldn't be concerned. The only thing that would concern me slightly, of course, he's an elite athlete whose production tells you he busts ass to be who he is. But if he's out of camp and doing his own thing, and then he comes back in a week before the game start, is he going to be kind of ready to go? Is he susceptible to injury? You want your guys in the building. You want to feel like everything
that part's
is going.
real.
And he's older.
Yeah.
This is his 3rd contract.
Yes.
This is not he's already gotten one big contract, and I think that probably is what's complicating it a little bit, because he's the best at what he does, basically, at his particular. I know he's a different player than Donald. He wants to get paid like it, but he's got to be 32, 33 by the end of this contract.
Okay. There's a little news item. Anything else?
When's the last time we had one news item?
Well, you had one you wanted to add.
No, I would mention that the Browns added Shelby Harris to their defensive
You would mention
line.
that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think they've done a nice job this offseason. That was a huge weakness all last year. You could run right through them like an open barn door, and they've shored that up.
you think they've done enough. How are you feeling about the Browns' offense? I was pretty stunned when I
Offense
saw
or
that
defense?
that the Football Outsiders had them 9th in defense.
I thought that was high too, because for me it's always like, let's see it first. But I think they've got a pretty elite group of cornerbacks. They've got some young safeties. You've put someone across from Myles Garrett, and the interior defensive line has been patched up. So they did about as much as you could do. And you get these August signings, and like Shelby Harris, like has been a really consistent player, I think. So
Right, all their
surprised he's still
other
available.
draft picks haven't worked. I guess they just drafted someone Siaki Ika, so he can play there. But you're right, it's kind of like the old big guy group. Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, Zadarius Smith. Probably they all won't work out. But defense to me is a little less about talent. It's a little bit more just about like coaching and attitude. Are they playing hard? You know. So if Schwartz can get them to do that, maybe the
Yeah, their coordinator was a big problem the last 2 years.
They're bad. Little
Don't just do your job. Do your job and more.
Right. Well, now they've
That's
adopted,
where football
they
is now.
adopted that slogan on Tuesday after seeing that on Hard Knocks from the Jets.
I can't wait to see Belichick shake Jeff Ulbricht's hand after the 11th straight Patriots victory over the Jets and be like, "You little mother, I knew more about football before you were even born."
Good stuff. All right. Transition.
I remember you as a player on the 49ers. You were a jag.
Transition. It's not a criticism of Hard Knocks, and I'm not going to go Dungy here, by the way.
Mhm.
But the Jets are the Hard Knocks team, and my son Jack is really starting to get into football. In fact, it's his birthday this weekend, and he asked his grandmother for an Aaron Rodgers jersey, and that's arriving on Saturday. And he previously had a Sam Darnold jersey and a Zach Wilson jersey, so third time's the charm. How do you watch that with the 8-year-old when Jeff Ulbrich is going off with F-bombs? How do I do it? What's the play?
So I brought that up because Walker wanted to watch it, and he's watched quarterback. And I said, well, there's a lot of bad words there. And he's whenever I say a bad word, something that's not even a bad word, like dumb, he'll be like, it's a bad word. I'm like,
Let's calm down.
That's not really a bad word.
Not in the array of bad words.
Anyways, so I said that. I
Yeah.
said there's a lot of bad words on that show. He's like, well, I already know all the bad words, so what's the difference?
Yeah, I don't
Like,
think it's a big deal.
I was like, that's a strong
F-bombs are pretty heavy, though.
No, but my
Yeah.
He's like, I know the worst ones. I was like, I know, buddy.
my kids know them all. There doesn't seem to be a compulsion to say them out loud in our house.
They're a little older, but yeah.
They're a little older. But I watched like the first half hour of Saving Private Ryan with him yesterday, which I know is intense.
Wait.
Well, no, because like they're really into World War II and stuff, and I was like, well, I think you got to
Isn't
rip.
that one of the most savage depictions?
It's
of war
insane,
in the history
but it's
of
insane.
cinema?
But they handled it beautifully, and
it.
like we're gonna continue to watch it. Like it's like I think you rip the Band-Aid off at some point and start showing real things.
I've
Aren't their
tried
heads
in
getting
my
blown off in
There's a man that carries his own arm at one point, but like there's a lot of other things that happen. That's not.
Hey, not judging your parenting.
Also,
when I
like,
think
by
of
the
that
way,
movie, I think of the opening scene being as horrifying as any depiction of war ever.
It is, but like they were in rapt attention.
Now
to
I
it,
don't
and-
feel so guilty about.
Yeah, I think you can handle
Jeff
Jeff
Ulbrich.
Ulbrich.
Yeah.
It's like he's gonna, it's a
Yeah.
guy in a chair saying a bad word.
Jack got into his first fight last week at a camp. Differing items of reporting on this, but Jack said the kid in front of him, his hat fell off, and Jack said he stepped on it, but accidentally. Yeah.
Okay.
The boy then turned around, gave it to Jack, and said, "I thought you were my friend. Why'd you do that?" And then kicked him, and on the playground was like kicking him and calling him the B word. And then Jack called him the B word back.
Wow.
And then the counselor
You
heard
can't be
Jack
too worried.
say the B word.
I don't think you need to worry about the Jets defense.
Yeah,
at this point.
exactly.
He's already super.
Well, this is my point.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't even come down too hard on him about getting busted by the counselor because he's now at that age where you're going to have dust-ups with kids sometimes. I had it when I remember St. Margaret's in the layup line with Tommy O'Hara, him going back and forth with him. That was right around that age. And the language starts to ramp up around his age. I was just like, maybe, again, I don't want to Dungify this, but maybe there's it's HBO Max. You can do anything on that streaming platform. You could put the bleep version and the uncensored version.
You could also fast forward through that part too.
But it's a great part.
You, the parent. Well, I know, but then that's
And it's not just that part, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's get to a very important matter here. Vitally important. For the past, and I think I have to address this because I was getting some stuff on social that seemed to. There were people that were curious if this went down a different way. We've had some. Let's face it. We've had some unnecessary drama involving turnover connected to this podcast in this offseason and the transfer of duties. I will no longer be doing power rankings on NFL.com this year. This was my idea. It was our idea collectively because we are really excited to do some more stuff connected to this show, specifically with NFL Plus. We're going to have to kind of announce our plans to the audience soon on that. But we're working on like multiple new shows connected to the universe of ATN. So it was time to get power rankings up the plate. And it's so important, I think, in any kind of group or organization for a nation, what have you, a peaceful transfer of power.
Right.
Because without that, you have chaos.
Like when one president's handing it off to another president.
We need that peaceful transfer of power. And with that said, I want to welcome on a highly qualified individual who has taken the scepter of not just the power rankings. This is Eric and I spoke last week. The power rankings. Eric Edholm, writer, NFL.com, the power rankings.
Got your handwritten note in the top desk drawer, in the presidential office. Thank you for that. It was a nice touch. And I do appreciate.
Sorry about all the F-bombs in it. Yes, right. Been watching.
First of all, I didn't know this was such a parenting show. I didn't know that was such a big topic, but I'm going to tune into every format you guys have going forward to make sure I'm knowing when to screen Schindler's List for my kids, that sort of thing.
That's what happens when you have one news item. So, yes. Right.
Yeah, that was Dad
May
Corner.
and June, right?
Yes, Eric, who is a lead draft writer for us here at NFL.com, does awesome work there. And yeah, after 4 years of power rankings, it was time for me to graduate, do something else. And who's more qualified than Edholm, who's done it in the past on different places. And the first one was a banger. In fact, and I point everyone over to his power rankings because one thing, for example, he's streets ahead of me in terms of this time of year, especially because he can tell you, all right, here's my rankings, and the rankings, especially this time of year, arbitrary, of course. However, the rookie classes and how they're going to look and what we're going to be looking for in these upcoming preseason games, Eric does a great job in the first power rankings diving into that side of these teams, which is so vital. So good job, Eric, and terrible job putting the Chiefs number one. I just don't see it. It's time to get after some people on power rankings, but yeah, good stuff, buddy. Great start.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny that one of the last Twitter replies I just got was somebody imploring me to be different, to be bold, to be creative, to think outside the box, and not just put last year's two Super Bowl teams atop the list. But I didn't want to break the news to him. If I did that, I would have had Bengals Cowboys at the top. I would have gotten more garbage from that too. So I have been indoctrinated into the fan response thing. The last 2 days have given me a kind of a tiny snapshot of what you've gone through for 4 years. So it's gonna be a ride. It's gonna be a ride. I'll say that. It'll be fun.
I'd ask you this because I know that Dan took a lot of heat. No matter what you do, you got like big groups of people coming after you. And like, what is your confrontational style? Are you someone that's just going to absorb it and water off a duck's back? Or do you get on Twitter and start telling people, you sit down, I'm the writer?
Yeah, the old Edholm would have fired back and thrown haymakers as best I could. I think I've mellowed a little bit. I don't know if that's a having kids thing or getting married thing. I don't know. Just being in the business for a while thing. But I do save up some little quick pithy responses whenever I have them in my back pocket. But these days, I mean, You can look. I think I've responded to about 5 or 6 people. The other 236 are going to have to wait.
I'm trying to guess, and you can tell me if I can guess right, because I'm trying to guess who has already been going after you the most that weren't happy with these
Yeah.
rankings. I'll throw the Seahawks out there. I don't know. They're like a nicer fan base in general. They're smart, but they might not be happy with being 14th. I mean, I was trying to think. Other than that, I don't see anything popping too much.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of right above them, the Browns. And Mark, you can weigh in on this if you have a strong feeling. I was gonna put the Browns a little higher than 13th. I had Seattle 14th, Cleveland. I know, and I said to myself, I don't think I can do it. In fact, I had just read, Greg, your little tantalizing nugget about what Collinsworth was saying about Deshaun Watson. I hadn't seen it yet. I hadn't watched the TV broadcast.
What was that? What for?
Basically, well, Greg could probably set it up better than I can, but basically kind of questioning whether Watson was a fit in this offense. True fit, like
in
a
true
real
Stefanski
hand in
offense.
glove.
Yeah, that was Thursday night, and we didn't really ever hit it on the podcast, but it was interesting. Reading between the lines, it sounded like Collinsworth had talked to the coaching staff and to Watson, and there was a little bit of a disagreement of the direction of the offense. That, Stefanski does one thing, and Watson wants to freestyle and do a little more spread and a little more running, and that maybe the Browns weren't going to change their offense as much as Deshaun Watson was hoping. And the way he said it was couched, but knowing how these things work, I don't think it was out of nowhere. And that was just like a little something to file away, where if they're 4-7 and they fire Stefanski, I'll remember that, because Watson's going to be there next year.
I was going to say, there's one guy has a $230 million guaranteed contract, and one guy entering his 4th year who hasn't made the playoffs in 2, and their one playoff when he was on the couch on in his basement. So
isn't that why it's totally fair to have Cleveland at 13? I love it because.
Can I share number 13 real quick? Just setting you up this way, Mark. That to me, and we didn't talk about this, Eric. 13 was always my twilight zone. That spot, 13, was where I couldn't quite figure out, and it was always natural fit. So I think it works for the way you kind of came up with it too. When I couldn't quite buy in on a team, but I also couldn't think, I can't bury them 15, 16, 17. 13 was like, I'm going to park him here because I don't know what to do.
Yeah, and you can't be offended if you're a fan of a team sitting at 13. I think Cleveland just has this variance because we don't know what's going to happen with the most important position. They're talented. You can see it on paper, but that's been true for a number of years, and the wins haven't come. So I have no issue with them being where they are.
I that 12 through probably let me look at my list here. 17, 18, I would say. I had the Giants at 18. That got some people lathered up. Steelers at 19 was really kind of that one set people off. And I understand it, right? I just think the division's brutal, and the same could be said for the NFC East. So that's kind of my
has the Steelers pinned for 19 wins this year.
I said double-digit wins, but I don't think
12, I believe.
Yeah, well, I would ask you a question, because I did QB Index. Greg has done it a number of times. I always felt like when I'm writing that thing, and you get from like 22 to 28, and like I'm staring at quarterbacks that I'm not even sure should be in the league based on injuries. It's like, what sort of substances do you imbibe at that point just to get through that murky area that's just like undefinable?
Yeah, it's usually cold coffee by that point because I'm so dialed in. This is a piece, and I've sort of realized quickly that you can do in small chunks, or you can just try to sit down for a 3-hour chunk and knock out as much as you can. That's what I did, and I didn't refill my cup. So it was the cold coffee taste in my mouth that I was like, we're getting to the point where I'm going to make some people mad, and I don't really know what I'm doing here because, like you said, there's so many unknowns, so many variables. It's a lot of dart throwing. Some of these picks are going to look ridiculous in a couple months.
I think that based on my time writing, especially last season, and the way Justin Fields broke out in some ways last year, and then the very busy offseason for the Bears. So Chicago fans coming after you a little bit, having him at 25?
Yeah, and it was funny because I think I had him. I did some shuffling, and I think I started him at 23, and then just kept kind of saying, well, I'm going to put the Commanders ahead of them. Yeah, I mean, the defense of the Commanders, Mike Vrabel for the Titans, Green Bay could surprise people, whatever. I kept sliding people ahead of them. So, yeah, I got a little heat from my my hometown folks. And, I'm just trying to be realistic about it, where I think, look, they still have a ton of issues to figure out. Am I optimistic? Is the arrow pointing the right way? I think so. But there were still enough kind of reports about Fields and having some up and down practices that it made me think, I can't really graduate these guys up to contender status just because Aaron Rodgers is in the AFC East right now.
I should say, bad host job. Here's the top 10. Chiefs, Eagles, Niners, Bengals, Bills. You could move maybe the back end of the top 5 round if you want, but I think that's fine. Cowboys 6, Ravens 7, Jets 8. See, I'm a little bit relieved I don't have to get killed for being a homer.
Sure.
But I would have the Jets right in that zone as well. Dolphins 9, Jags 10, and then right on the outside looking in, Lions and Chargers 11, 12.
I have no
Checks
issue
out
with
for
that,
me.
except I think the Ravens are coming in a little higher than I would have thought.
Yes, I think that's another team that I had some regret on and probably would have put a little bit higher. But yeah, I mean, look,
It happens, Greg. It happens.
and you
send it in, and you have regrets.
No, wait. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's strange though that we've gotten some real frustration out of Ravens camp about the offense. Not strange. I shouldn't say that. These things happen, right? I mean, but I really was expecting there to be a little bit more of a smoother runway, that they would kind of get this thing rolling and then kind of branch it out offensively. I mean, it's not as if he hasn't been an offensive coordinator before, but it's a different thing. So it seems like there's been a little bit of frustration from Lamar and the receivers aren't quite fitting in yet. But yeah, I might have gone a tiny bit higher if I had a redo.
Well, they're right below kind of the 6. I feel like there's 6 teams this year: Chiefs, Eagles, 49ers, Bengals, Bills, Cowboys, where if they don't make the playoffs,
Right,
it's a catastrophe. And I do think there's sort of a cut after that. Now, I'm sure Ravens fans or Jets fans will feel like it's a catastrophe if they don't make the playoffs too. But it's not everyone can make the playoffs. But those first 6, I suspect, are kind of a consensus first 6, though. But looking at the power rankings in general, I feel like the bottom of the league isn't as bad as it's been in some years. The Cardinals, yes. And some other teams will pop in there. Maybe it's the Colts, who you have a little higher than I expected, 26. But looking at teams like the Raiders and the Bucks, I can't kill you for making them 29th and 30th. But it's those teams have a lot of players for the 29th and 30th team. And that's why the NFL is the greatest sports league in the world.
There you go, Greg.
Here comes a $100 just stuffed.
Where's my MVP coin? Are we still doing that?
You get free usage of the locker room.
It is
down
crazy,
there, right?
though. It's like the Raiders. I get it. They're at 29. It's man, the Raiders have a lot of players for being 29. Same with the Bucs.
It's an optimistic time of year, obviously, for almost every team except for the Cardinals. And that's when this is so hard, because it's somebody's got to be 30, 20, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27, and then the games start. And Eric, that's when it gets really fun and really busy and really contentious. But I think you're the right man for the job.
I appreciate that.
The scepter has been passed for. And the one thing I would say, if you can continue to carry on the legacy of just unearned confidence and letting people know that there are many power rankings, but there is only one that truly matters, and it's the one that comes from the NFL itself. And now it is you in control. Good luck, sir.
I'm a little nervous all of a sudden, the way you painted it that way, but yeah, all right, I'm in. I hope you guys will have me back on to talk power rankings sometime, and I appreciate everything you've done for me.
Remember what RG3 said: the grind is the find.
Dan, every Tuesday before he pressed publish, would actually bow to this shrine of Vic Cariucci, the first person to do the George Washington of power rankings.
That's true.
On NFL.com.
That's true. GW.
I'll have to get his mug behind me as a tribute.
Just going after it during the rev. All right, Eric, thank you very much, buddy. Good luck. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, boys. Thank you.
See you, Eric.
Of all the great things connected with power rankings, the most annoying thing, the only thing that really got me pissed is if I don't do this much, but if I posted on Instagram a shot of me and my sons or something, and then some bonehead would be like, "Yo, Rams at 24, you suck. You should be fired." It's bruh.
Yeah. I think the greatest insult I ever got was underneath one article, "You're dumb and your kids are dumb." And I only had one child at the time. So it was
well, you have the daughter, too. Maybe.
Referencing.
Yeah, maybe that was stepfather, perhaps. Because you were completely absentee until she was 18.
I mean, it stuck with me.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
All right, let's take a break, and then we'll get into preseason week 1. Promo time. Welcome back. And this is an important one. My employment hinges on how much I put into this week. 3, 2, 1. Football is back, and NFL Network has every preseason game, including 23, live. That's my favorite number, and it's also the year. Big names putting new cities on their backs. A new class putting their names on the map. Your team. Mark, who's your team?
NFL Network.
Okay. Is back in action. It's time for football. The NFL preseason, August 10th through the 26th on NFL Network and stream on NFL Plus. Today is August 10th. Football is tonight.
Football is back.
Kind of. Minnesota Vikings at Seattle Seahawks. Houston Texans at New England Patriots.
Well, CJ Stroud.
Vikings at Seahawks, is that
Yeah.
tonight as well?
Yeah, and Texans at New England, at the Patriots.
Pinch me. All right, let's get into it. Why don't we do it like this?
You killed that read, by the way. Genuine zeal was
You
coming,
think I'll be
was
okay?
pouring out of you.
Think I'll be okay?
It's a big month. I mean, Walker's been counting down. He's into the preseason. I think it's.
I get it. He's a boy.
Yeah.
He doesn't know anything.
Well, the adults are. The adults are too. I don't think
What
I'm
adults?
talking out of school. I mean, the Hall of Fame game got higher ratings than like NBA playoff games, MLB playoff games. It's our biggest couple weeks of the year on NFL Network because we're just preseason all the time and tons of people watch it.
You're right. But Greg, you're suggesting that Dan and I aren't we're bought in. We're involved.
Yes, the popularity of, say, the Hall of Fame game, which is outrageous, that game, from a competitive standpoint, competition standpoint, just shows you how the juggernaut the NFL is. That we have, and we're very lucky to cover this sport that could garner numbers like that for a game in which virtually no starters are even on the field. We're going to see starters on the field. Not everybody. There are a lot of big names, very rare that you see big names, especially at quarterback position playing. But we're going to see a lot of players that are going to matter. And let's start with let's just go in order. Vikings at Seahawks. Mark, you got a whole list of stuff. What are you looking for in this game?
Well, I wouldn't say I went game by game this way. I've got them sprinkled throughout. Vikings, I think they sort of said no one's going to play, but Jordan Addison, the rookie wideout, is someone I'd point to, and Jackson Smith and Jigba for the Seahawks. I mean, these guys are going to be counted on right away from week one, and especially I just think that Seattle's wide receiver group is insane, and I think that you're going to get Jackson's going to. I just had this feeling. The way he looked to me on tape, that he's just going to step right in and fit with them. And so if you get a little bit of them literally hours from now, I would be excited to see what they look like.
He's too good to play in the preseason. I'm a little disappointed. And some teams do play their starters more. And because
I feel like Pete Carroll has historically done a lot of that.
Right, he has. It's when Russell Wilson won his job. Was really in the preseason. I'm a little disappointed. Devin Witherspoon's had a second a hamstring injury. He's their top 5 pick at cornerback, who they picked over Jalen Carter. And so he's had one of those camps where he started a little late because of the contract, then a hamstring, and he actually wasn't taking starter snaps for the most part, and maybe it's Pete Carroll making him earn it, but he's been playing inside. It's just one of those things that I can already fast forward to next year and hear some Devin Witherspoon puff piece saying I never really fully caught up. So because I'm really excited about him. I'm excited about that secondary, excited about that defense, but I don't know if we'll see much of him in the preseason.
Yeah, DJ Dallas, you would think is going to get a good run here potentially with all the injuries Seattle has, and yeah, Smith and Jigba hits the ground running, and Lockett has been as underrated as any receiver the last 10 years. And, of course, Metcalf, I think, is a superstar. As long as Geno doesn't crater here, they're going to score points. They are going to do very well.
Their turnaround took less than a year.
Stroud is the headliner for the Thursday night games that we get to see Stroud. Because according to the
Texans at Pats.
Right, the reporters there, he started camp a little slower, like most rookies do, and has really come on. And training camp, I mean, preseason's for rookies. And so him and Tank Dell was a 3rd-round pick, kind of that shifty slot receiver mold, getting wide open. That should be fun to watch.
On the Patriots side of things, what are we seeing Mac Jones tonight?
I don't think so.
He
They never say ahead of time.
All the, we didn't dwell on it too much, but any speculation through the spring and into early summer about the Bailey Zappi, Mac Jones QB battle. There is no battle. Mac Jones is the guy. He's getting the first team reps. I would say if Jones isn't playing a lot, Zappi's going to get some playing time. It is an opportunity to put a bug in Belichick's ear. If he lights up a bunch of practice squad guys and future FedEx drivers.
Zappi.
Yeah, Zappi.
I think Belichick already has a bit of a Zappi fascination.
Right. So
yeah,
this is an opportunity for him to further dig into that infatuation.
I mean, I would play Mac Jones. I mean, it's series or two because like they used to. Tom Brady would roll out there in the preseason more than you'd think.
Right. I should have said I have no idea if he's playing.
Right. We'll see. But like, this is a new offense. In theory, it's been corrected a lot. But like the reports out of New England, especially at like the very thin, unelegant wide receiver position, have been kind of disastrous. So it's like, what are we holding Mac Jones back for? Like, it's like
so he doesn't get hurt.
Well, sure, but like at some point, I mean, they got to get this thing going a little bit.
Depends who's healthy on the line. I think
Let's say play 2 quarters.
I think they've seen their offense kind of come to life too over the last week. That's the thing. You get so fixated. It's crazy to take much away from those non-padded practices. Demario Douglas, is that how you say his name? An undrafted rookie, smells like a Patriots-y guy that he might be their starting slot receiver. They might have an undrafted guy playing a lot of snaps. So he is someone where the preseason matters for him. They had a second rounder last year, Tyquan Thornton, they got all excited about, and he might already be passed by this undrafted kid, Douglas.
You're right about Belichick and the Patriots being unpredictable. I kind of remember vaguely like year 15 for Brady or around there, him playing with the first team offense until like the second half.
Oh, yeah.
Just letting it rip.
And it's now with the 3 weeks, so it's also unpredictable which weeks starters will play. Because there's less, and I feel like a lot of teams aren't using that third week, that actually some might use the first and second week almost as what used to be the second and third week. Like those are the kind of the two main weeks. So every team approaches it a little differently. Depends if you had the joint practices. Like for instance, the Jets Panthers' second joint practice got rained out, and it's like, okay, you wonder if they might play a little more starters. I doubt Aaron Rodgers is playing, but maybe Bryce Young plays a little more because they didn't get that second joint.
They seem to like those practices so much more because you can work with the other coach to set up what you actually want to do. Where in a game, like
you have a little more control.
Yeah, you may not get to the red zone in a game with the people you want to have there.
Let's move to Friday. G-Man at Detroit Lions from Ford Field. I would say from the Giants side of things, we all know Darren Waller is going to be, they hope, will be the focal point, kind of their passing attack and their red zone offense. They have a bunch, we've talked about it on the show, just a bunch of guys at wide receiver. And if I'm a Giants fan, we're looking at Isaiah Hodgkins, Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt, a rookie, Sterling Shepard's there, Wan'Dale Robinson, even though he's on the PUP list right now. You want some of these guys to kind of establish a role or find themselves and be able to put together an offense.
We just saw Connie Fox outside. I waved her to come in, so we'll see if that happens. So sometimes it's like about who does and doesn't play in the preseason, but the reports in camp, I think Hodgins is a starter. I think Jalen Hyatt, their third-round rookies, had a nice camp, and I think Paris Campbell might have wormed his way into playing time there. So basically, all the guys who have been around, like Sterling Shepard and Wan'Dale, like they might be getting left behind.
I want to see
Jamison Crowder's in that camp. Is that true?
He is there as well. Cole Beasley's there. Like they're not going to need those guys if the Paris Campbells and the Jalen Hyatts end up performing.
Eric, can you give your headset to Connie? Who you say hello to?
Yeah, I'm the one that waved her forward.
Yes, Greg.
Yes, Greg, you are the
good
one.
Job,
I'm
Greg.
just saying,
Yes.
it seems
Greg,
like
you did a great job.
It seems like she didn't want to come.
This is not great for the hair right now.
It's okay. Hey, how are you,
Hi.
Colleen?
I'm great.
Good to see you.
I just got back from Seattle last night. And
You loved it there.
You suggested you might not leave.
I love Seattle.
They put you on Puget Sound over there, I heard.
Lake Washington.
Oh,
That looks like
L-Dub.
the most tranquil.
Is that a real lake? Because you say George
Camp.
Washington might not be real. What about Lake Washington?
I mean, it depends what mental state and where Connie was and what she was doing.
Well,
think
I was working, so I
Okay.
was in a very straight-laced state. But it was still super
Laced
fun.
with what?
Reality.
Got it. Got it.
Miss you guys. Great to see you.
Great to see you. What do you got going on right now?
Here to just do the doubleheader today.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
You got any
just
takes?
talking about that.
We just hit on the 2 games. Any takes
Oh,
from
that's
your
great. I should listen
breathless
so I can
research?
prepare.
We
I got
were-
home at 10 o'clock last night, so
We were thorough for 5 or
Wait,
6
did you
minutes.
Yeah.
did you have a you? I saw you gave Pete Carroll like a pair of Air Carrolls or whatever. What are those? Air
Air
Monarchs.
So
The-
Pete Carroll gave us Bucky and
Oh.
I. Bucky got some Monarchs because Pete Carroll gave the whole team Monarchs,
Mm.
but they didn't have Monarchs in my size, so they gave me some Air Maxes.
Okay.
Size
Um,
negative
Actually
3.
better.
Yeah, what is your shoe
Worked out
size?
well.
I'm a 6.5 in women, so I can fit into 5 youth.
Like, what is that in the range of women's
She's like
shoes? Are you
Parker
looking
shaking her head in
smaller, middle?
stunned disbelief that a foot could be that small.
Yeah, but it's great. I can buy boys' shoes, so they're cheaper. So J's are and like more availability too.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah,
good.
it's great. So good times.
All right. Okay. Well, Connie, thank you for this.
I've said it all.
You've said it all, and it's good. You're my Hard Knocks co-host, and we're going to be together in studio on Tuesday. We got to get
That's
you,
right.
and if we can get you in on ATN next week, that'd be
Yeah.
golden. More
I'm
golden.
available.
There you go.
Okay. Bye, guys.
There she goes.
All right, farewell.
So check her out on the NFL Network. I mean, we did extra promo.
Yeah.
You know what I love?
Definitely in the clear now.
We had a corporate meeting that started 2 minutes ago, and we're just sticking it to the corporates because we're still here doing this.
Bang.
I had
Bang.
2 corpo
Bang.
meetings at the exact same time scheduled.
All right. Here we go. So we
you
talked
did.
about the Giants. Anything, guys, on the Detroit side that you're looking for?
Sam Laporta, who's been like the rave reviews all camp. I don't know how much we'll see of him, but
Pittsburgh at Tampa Bay. This is the most uninspiring quarterback competition since. What's the Chiefs Hard Knocks season? You remember those guys? Brody Coyle and
yeah, that's
Tyler Thigpen, was that it?
Thiggy?
That was that one, or was Castle in that?
there was
mix?
Matt Castle and Brady Quinn one year, but you knew it was over for both.
It's a tough one. When you sign Baker to a 1-year, $3 million contract, which is like less than good backups make, but then he's your favorite to start week 1, it's problematic. I feel like he has a chance. I actually feel like if John Walford had a huge preseason, like it will increase the chances that we see John Walford playing NFL football this.
cinch me.
Hmm.
And let's move on to Green Bay at Cincinnati.
Well, I don't know how much we'll see of Jordan Love, but I mean that's
He's playing.
there's that. I mean, there's the Bengals are just probably they've been practicing against each other the past couple of days, and they've been intense practices where a couple guys got kicked out of practice for fighting, and Jordan Love reports in general that he's been sort of up and down. That he's in those scrimmages, there was a lot of sort of conservative play and checkdowns and stuff. So I want to see how they use him.
He's playing. I mean, and
Good.
I think he'll play at least the first 2 weeks of preseason, maybe all 3. They have so many rookies that matter on a team that I think actually will matter this year, that they are one of the teams to watch, I think, in the preseason. Like Jaden Reed, it sounds like, is going to be their slot receiver. He's a rookie. Why am I spacing on the guy that I'm not totally in
Romeo
love with?
Dobbs.
Musgrave, their tight end, rookie tight end, has had a big training camp. So those guys will be out there. And like the Bengals, I do wonder if their backup quarterbacks continue to play like you would expect Jake Browning and Trevor Siemian to play. It's like, what are we doing here? You're trying to win a Super Bowl? You're really going to be one heartbeat away from Jake Browning and Trevor Siemian? Like, I think if they struggle in the preseason, they might start kicking the cans on who's
Well,
out
that's
there.
the same
whether
with
it's
the
like
Bills.
a Jameis or a Carson
Well,
Wentz.
but
something
hang on a
like that.
second. I know what you're saying, but if something happened to Joe Burrow, the season's over anyway.
But I'm saying
like, doesn't matter who you get off the.
it does,
scrap
though.
pile.
It does, because if he misses 2 or 3 weeks, and the difference between Jameis Winston and Carson Wentz and freaking Jake Browning, it's like you got no chance with Jake Browning. You throw Wentz or Winston or someone
That's
like
fair.
that on a decent team.
I thought you meant more like
Yeah,
a long-term absence.
fair.
You call up Matt
for-
Ryan.
But you're right. You should have something. We'll get to Winston because that jumped out to me and doing some reading this morning. The Packers thing, by the way, just a theory, because I've seen a lot of positive buzz around Love, and I wonder how much of that is Packers fans trying to kind of will this into a happy outcome for the team at a time when Aaron Rodgers is on this wild honeymoon romp with the Jets that features absolutely zero carnal boundaries.
It is a crazy
No
honeymoon
carnal
period.
boundaries.
Yeah, I see what he's saying. It's
Everything's in play.
It's like the best honeymoon period ever.
Like they're not leaving the room, the Jets and Aaron Rodgers right now, and it's like
Well,
the Packers like, I love you so much, Jordan Love. Like we're not going anywhere either.
yeah, but there was the
Trying to get out of the
report
room.
that like finally Aaron Rodgers got agitated at his teammates, and some of them sort of said, well, he's been really kind and patient with us, but it's can turn a little bit. So maybe one of them did leave the room.
It gives me
He'll
T.O.
get some
Whatever
ice.
they say about Aaron Rodgers on TV is a lie.
There you go. So we could cross that off the list.
Oh, okay.
It gives me T.O. and Philly vibes. When T.O. arrived in Philly, it was like the greatest honeymoon period ever, and it remained that way for an entire year. That's kind of what it's kind of what I expected.
Atlanta at Miami. How much are we going to see of Bijan Robinson?
Miami.
I
I
cannot
think
wait.
that's
for
what
this
everyone's excited about.
game. I think this is like the Falcons. There's something about them right now that's exciting.
I think Ritter
To me.
might play some. I'm curious. Devin Achane, the rookie running back for the Dolphins, because as we mentioned, kind of with Wes at the top of the show, I feel like rookie running backs, you can't see it. Practice reports on running backs just don't matter. But this is where like those mid-round guys, and there's a few in this class that I want to see this weekend.
I like the Falcons better this year than the last 2 years.
Right.
But I was at the barbershop on Saturday, and I looked up, and the TV had Desmond Ritter practice reel, and then underneath it, his numbers in the final four starts of the season. He threw for 750 yards and 2 touchdowns in 4 starts.
I thought he got better during those 4.
I know that's such a small sample size and 2 random stats, but wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire. And now he's the unquestioned QB.
And I went back and watched those. You know how many interceptions he had?
0.
And they talked about
Very
him being
safe.
very accurate during this camp. And
Very
stuff. I don't know.
boring,
They
yes.
seem to love him. I mean,
I know. I just wonder if there's some convincing going on in that building as well. That's all.
they also could run.
I don't think we're gonna. That's the
212
thing.
yards
Is
a
like
game
we're
or
not gonna
something.
learn too much. Quarterbacks, it's fun to watch, but that's where I think the preseason can get a little fake. Sometimes Blake Bortles pops. Sometimes some pretty great rookie quarterbacks have struggled in preseason.
Washington, do you have anything else from Miami side of things? Washington at Cleveland. We're going to see, you'd like to see if you're the Commanders, especially after that story/non-story around, Eric Bieniemy is too mean. You'd like to see Sam Howell go out there and lead a scoring drive or two, just to get some good vibes in that building about what their quarterback situation is right now. I would imagine that in general, very few established QBs are going to play a snap in these silly games. But like Deshaun Watson, it would make sense for him to get as many reps as possible.
There was some reporting that he'd play a little bit.
He's one guy that I would think it makes a lot of sense based on his underwhelming close last season.
He played last preseason. I mean, I think you got to like this again. This is another one of these teams where if you're like, Russell Wilson, like get out there and play. Like take some of this.
Isn't it kind of fun? He had just signed that huge contract. Why did he even play in the preseason last year if he was going to disappear for 12 weeks or whatever? Like, what was the point of that other than risking a blown ACL?
It's their centerpiece.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
I don't know. Are they making good decisions there? I don't know.
Well, was it? Yeah.
Denver at Arizona. Go ahead. I got a take on the Broncos in this one. This one matters to me.
Well, this game matters to me because it's time for the Clayton Tune Express to start cranking it up. I mean, we got a chance to have a 5th-round rookie possibly start week 1. That's outrageous. I got to think it's Colt McCoy, but maybe it's Clayton Tune. And this reminds me, I actually brought in a gift today. Was at the Last Bookstore downtown Los Angeles, a city. Home to one of the world's great bookstores, Last Bookstore. Really a classic. And I saw in the sports section the actually, I don't know when this was released, the 2011 classic, Growing Up Colt by Colt McCoy and Brad McCoy with Mike Yorkley, A Father, a Son, a Life in Football. Just think of the wisdom you can get from Colt
Greg,
McCoy
wow.
12 years ago.
I assume you're not giving this to Dan.
This is
Okay.
for Mark. This is for Mark.
That's right.
So number one, that's really nice of
that's
you. I really
camaraderie.
appreciate that. About like in 2012 or so.
Look at his open. Look at his. I'm a good old boy with my denim shirt. No book.
He wrote it with his dad. I've actually read this book. Like,
Is that a John Deere truck?
I read it when it came out, and so but this is an incredible gift. And I'll tell you why. Like
It's a $5
it's one of the reasons that I named my son Colt, because it's really actually a good book if you're a dad. But secondly, I was at a Browns bar once, had the book with me, and gave it to a Browns fan who I thought I'd see the next week, and he never showed up again. So I've not had the book for over a decade, and now you've given it to me again.
Thank you.
That's really nice.
I was got to take it back that you had already read it.
No. I'm going to put it on my bookshelf.
I got a feeling, and I'm passing no judgment, but just the vibe, there's a lot of Jesus stuff in that one.
It's they are a religious family. There's no doubt.
I love football, I love family, I love my John Deere truck that I put on the cover of my book, and Jesus Christ.
But they kind of raised him to be kind of a tough kid out of the gate and stuff.
I want growing up Colt Sessler. I want that one.
That's going to be a wild. That novel comes out about 14 years from now, and there could be.
I mean, he's about the same age as Colt McCoy was when this book came out. There is always something funny to me about like biographies of a 21-year-old.
Yeah, calm down about that. The Jarrett Stidham of it all matters to me just because Sean Payton obviously likes him, and maybe Stidham can light up these FedEx drivers and turn a curiosity into an obsession for a head coach who's egomaniacal and wants to put his stamp on his new team. And that would start with the quarterback that I brought in when I got here. My take is I don't think we're going to see Russell Wilson much, or at all today or this weekend. But like I don't know if Russ even realized how much danger he's in. I think Russ has to be closer to great than good to stay in this lineup, because I think Peyton might be in a rush to kind of really start his.
He's got to be the old Russell Wilson this season, or I think they experiment with Stidham by week 6 or 7.
And my thoughts on the Cardinals: Clayton Tune.
I don't care.
Jeff Driscoll.
I don't care.
David Blau.
I don't care.
Well, the second two,
David Blau.
I understand, although we do have a co-host writing a newsletter about him, so that's kind of rude. I don't think there'll be factors in the battle. But Clayton Tune, they drafted him. He's their guy.
Tennessee at Chicago.
Chicago, they have a rookie running back, Roshan Johnson. Justin Fields is going to play in this game. I think he's going to play potentially in all 3 preseason games. So
good.
Roshan Johnson is one of those guys that like the draftniks get super excited about, and the fantasy heads are like, no one else is really there. It's Khalil Herbert. They just like pencil him in as a potential starter, and then you hear like, actually, he's not pass protecting that well in camp, and like so that he's one of those guys that's like needs to get playing time in the preseason.
I think Tennessee. I want to see Will Levis. I mean, any of these rookie quarterbacks, it's like let's watch the entire.
He'll
thing.
play. For what it's worth, they're still listing Malik Willis as the backup on those depth charts, but those depth charts don't mean much.
Nice move, by the way, Mike Vrabel naming defensive line coach Terrell Williams the acting head coach for this game. That does tell you a little bit about how much this game means.
Yeah, but they should do that all over the league.
But also a great job by a guy who's trying to, pump up one of his dudes that he believes deserves.
It's funny
platform
because I hear you in terms of what it means in the wins and losses, and that's right, obviously. But whenever they on Hard Knocks like are wired, and this is true all throughout the preseason, like they care so much. They get like Aaron Rodgers was
going absolutely nuts.
It just because they're competitors and they're playing football, and people that they know are literally fighting for their livelihoods, like that they get super fired up for it, even though in the end they also know that the result sort of doesn't matter. It's like it's a fascinating thing.
True. Indy at Buffalo.
Anthony Richardson.
Not a surprise. Barring injury, I don't think there is any scenario in which Shane Steichen doesn't go with the first-round rookie in week 1.
He's starting this game, too. I mean, I think you're right. How do you keep him?
What would he have to do? Like, honestly, would Anthony Richardson, if he threw an interception in every one of these games and didn't move the ball, I still think he's starting week 1.
He'd have to go like AWOL for 10 days and no one knows where he is. And it's like, we're not sure we can count on this guy, but he's not going to do that.
Minshew's reportedly, played really well at practice. I actually think if he was really struggling in practice, if he was Zach Wilson as a rookie in practice, I actually do think they would be more hesitant. But there hasn't been that feel. It sounds like everything is on track enough. And yeah, he's starting this game. That kind of says it.
And you talked about the Bengals backup QB scenario, but like these reports out of Buffalo that Kyle Allen, and this is not a big surprise if you watched much Kyle Allen, like they have a serious issue at backup quarterback in Buffalo. That like if and in Josh Allen, same thing. If Josh Allen goes down, check you later. But they could be looking around.
Didn't
for
we see
backup.
Kyle Allen win a football game overseas? Only so many quarterbacks have done that.
Mhm.
Did they win that game? I
Mhm.
can't even remember anymore. It was
Mark.
like Jameis threw like 5 interceptions, and the Panthers.
That was
pulled it
bad.
out.
Yeah.
That was bad performance. Mark, Jonathan Taylor, AWOL, just clears the runway because it's Jake Funk season, baby.
It's exciting. I mean, it's
This is fun.
That's good. That is funk. This is your time, baby.
I mean, to speak over this music is a tough ad, but I know Jake Funk, flamed out with the Rams, surprisingly. I think everyone was surprised that he didn't thrive there.
You say everyone?
Everyone. But now I think he's got a whole new opportunity, and look at, like, your star running back is obviously a little bit cowed by the idea of going up against Jake Funk.
Turn this up in my
He's vanished from
headphones.
practice. It's time for Funk to
Turn this
do
to
it.
11. Funk season for Marc Sessler. Loves those white running backs.
That is not what's happening here.
In the month of August.
It's funny with all the budget cuts, we could just afford such a quality session player back there. Just
That's actually Eric.
lighten it up.
He's got a keyboard in front of him. He's like that guy that went viral on TikTok. He's a New York City guy, and he's in his his tighty whities and a bathrobe.
Mark Rebelay.
Yeah, Rebelay.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
I will give credit to Randy though. He's the one. He dug for that. I
Oh,
know
big Randy
Randy
Chavez. Of
coming through.
course.
It's a big spot for me.
Not surprising that Randy would be the guy that found the funk.
Yeah.
That guy is funk. Jets at Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Bryce Young. And, he'll be up against the Jets' defensive line is pretty wild. They're deep. They got a lot of rotational rushers. I'm excited to see some of these guys, including their first round pick, Will McDonald. And
You looked good last week too.
Jermaine Johnson flashed as a first rounder last year. He was like the other first rounder that was kind of forgotten, but he made an impact for them, and he's going to have a bigger role this year. So those guys, I'm excited to kind of see them on the field getting after Young, whose mobility is part of his game.
How long do you play Bryce Young? I mean, I think that's an interesting because it's not the old school preseason. It's like the whole season, your whole franchise pivots around this guy. Do you not treat him more like?
I want to see him too because the whole
Yeah.
thing about his size and everything. Now we're going to see him in an NFL game, kind of, with giant offensive linemen and huge front seven coming at him. Like, is it going to be jarring? Is it gonna be one of those things like with Kyler, for instance, where it's like, whoa, this guy's small as hell.
Yeah, except his head.
It's going to be like that, except a giant
Yes, it will be
helmet.
like that.
Lego figure.
Jonathan Mingo was listed as a starter. One of my favorite rookie receivers. So they're not wasting any time with him.
Jacksonville at Dallas. We didn't see a lot of Dallas receivers making plays with CeeDee Lamb out of practice on Monday. The guy I want to see is Michael Gallup. I just don't know what their plan is for him, but would be interesting to see if he flashes at
Deuce
all.
Vaughn feels very much like a preseason sensation.
Oh, big time.
I can see that happening. Tank Bigsby. What a name, Tank Bigsby. And could be a sneaky fantasy factor this year. He's almost certainly their backup running back. And possibly their red zone guys had a nice camp, and I feel like you need someone with ETN. I don't want to give ETN 300 touches, so he's someone.
You don't like ETN that much, huh?
I like him fine, but I don't think you want to give him 300 touches. I feel like he'd be nice in a share.
Tank Bigsby's real name, Cartavius Bigsby.
That's pretty good too.
Nice.
That's pretty good.
Should have just kept Cartavius.
Tank is not a bad
Thanks,
name
good too.
for
You're
being
so right.
a red zone hammer.
Deuce Vaughn is so the favorite to be preseason MVP because he plays for the Cowboys. They're trying to figure out things. His size leads to all that deuce porn, as we heard on Monday. He's going to run for like 700 yards.
And that,
But will he have a role in the offense? We'll see.
like you get to go to these practices in person. Like you did mention the Bryce Young thing. Like Deuce Vaughn, the human being, compared to everyone else on the field, like it's a reason to watch a Cowboys game alone. You don't see this very
Just
often.
don't ask him to pick up a blitz with Dak Prescott behind center.
Yeah,
Model.
that doesn't go so well.
Eagles at Baltimore Ravens.
How about the Ravens? The way they treat the preseason and their incredible
Oh,
streak.
great call.
Yeah.
The dynasty.
What is the streak? What are we up to? Let's see. Ravens winning streak. This is kind of what they're known for at this point in their franchise. 23 straight. Think about this. This is, I think, unbreakable records in pro sports. Like, you throw them out there, I don't know, Joe DiMaggio, 56-game hitting streak, 23 straight exhibition games, winning across, 5 or 6 years when you're not playing your starters and there's all sorts of things that can happen that really don't matter and would end a game. Imagine how many of these games have gone down, Greg, to the last couple plays, because that's just how a lot of these preseason games go, because nobody ties, so you just start doing crazy stuff. And they've won them all.
The streak is so long, I'd have to fact check, but I'm pretty sure Robert Griffin III is like a big part of this streak as the Ravens.
I like how they bring out Justin Tucker to win the close ones.
That is wild. The Eagles quietly signed a couple veteran linebackers this week, Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham. They clearly weren't happy with what they were seeing at linebacker. And I've seen some reports that Nolan Smith has really had a nice camp, the rookie, and that they've actually played him at off-ball linebacker a little bit, which is kind of shocking because he's such a fast pass rusher, kind of like a Hassan Reddick guy. So he's someone to watch because he could play a little more than maybe was expected on a deep Eagles defense. But they're searching a little bit at linebacker.
I would with these reports that Lamar is a little befuddled and the offense isn't looking that sharp. Like, I don't know. Do you just wait till week 1 to see how things go with him?
Do we just keep
Maybe
Odell and shrink wrap until September?
Yeah, I would do that. But I mean,
there's something about this wide
played in 2
receiver
years,
group.
but-
I mean, Rashad Bateman just came off PUP. I'm afraid. Zay Flowers has supposedly been as advertised.
Ravens, just a little more context on the streak. The last loss, September 3rd, 2015. On that day.
Wait, 2015?
On that day, Ravens star quarterback, this is from Fox Sports, Lamar Jackson made his debut for the Louisville Cardinals. 2 days after that 20-19 defeat to the Falcons to finish the 2015 preseason on a 3-game.
this game is huge.
They're laying wood, 6 points to the Eagles. So they're a pretty heavy favorite, and
it'd be
we'll
funny
see if it continues.
because I think they play Washington every year. It's just like local rivalry, whatnot.
Beltway.
It'd be funny if
Battle at the Beltway.
if Rivera just was like, I'm sick of this freaking streak. I'm sick of, and just like played all of his starters.
Sam,
Just like
Sam Howell, you're giving me 4 quarters and 40 passes
Yeah, I
today.
guess-
I'm going to win this game. They lose.
right. I guess the quarterback wouldn't be great either, but like you play your entire awesome defensive line for 3 quarters. You're calling trick plays.
Someone should do that.
It'll be
I
fun.
like that.
It's time for somebody
Stick
to
it to
end the
Harbaugh.
streak. It cannot extend through this year. In fact, I might go the other way and root against the streak just for the drama of it at this point. The second longest winning streak, by the way, is the Buffalo Bills, who have won 9 straight preseason.
That's a lot too.
That is
That
a
tells you
lot.
how tough this chore would be.
Battle at SoFi, Chargers at Rams. Think about, in terms of energy and electricity, 6 Taylor Swift shows in 7 nights, and then you go straight to the battle for Los Angeles, Chargers, Rams preseason.
It just gets more. I'm going to this game, so I can't wait to.
I've been to
check
this
it out.
game.
You getting paid for that?
No, I'm going as a,
Stop.
for myself.
It's rude. You're going with your kids, right?
I'm taking them to a different Rams game. This one I am going in a different situation, but I just want to go see what it's like.
I believe I've been to 3 Rams Chargers games since SoFi's open. Maybe it's only 2. These are 2 teams that don't play a lot of starters, unfortunately. Kyron Williams is maybe someone to watch, the backup running back. The Rams are going to have to play more guys that are going to be starters because they don't know who their starters are.
Well, they're kind of if you're a Rams fan, it's sort of depressing time a little bit, but like you're kind of relearning an entire roster.
Yeah, I remember
so many guys. Defense.
Josh Palmer had a big game in this Battle of LA last year, and you know what? He ended up having
I'll sell
nice
this
little
one.
rookie season.
I don't think there's any team in the
Lance
league
McCutcheon.
that fashions itself competitive and potentially a playoff team where the preseason is more important than it is for Sean McVay and the Rams to find some bodies on that defense and establish some type of cohesiveness.
I wonder
ahead
if
of
we'll get
week
to
1.
see people walking around in the shirts with the and the ampersand. the slogan shirt.
If you
on the sideline.
yeah,
I'll
And
try to
let-
get
you know
a
what?
photo if I can.
You
And
got
let's
some
see if
reporting
they've
on
upgraded the concession situation, because this is the nicest stadium in the league. It's beautiful. The food's terrible.
Need some better nachos.
What about the lady with the axe? Is she going to be there?
Is it? That's a
We're
Rams thing or a Chargers thing?
Well, it's Rams and it's a
Yeah.
Rams game.
Oh, then
It's
you
Rams,
should have her, unless she's on tour. She's very successful.
I don't
in
know
her
if
own
she
right.
does preseason though, but she'd have to start to practice and get.
And I would say, Mark, if you're if you're going to the game, which you are, bring your shoulder pads. You might McVay might be like, I need a body. Get out there. I need a safety. I need a free safety.
Oh, if they let me in with that kind of stuff, I'll bring them in.
Chiefs at Saints. How about this? The Derek Carr goes to New Orleans, and there he is, right back to playing Andy Reid in Kansas City in a big showdown.
I don't know if we'll see him on Sunday. We'll see. We'll probably see some Jameis. I think they might be trying to advertise Jameis. If they like Jake Haener enough, their rookie quarterback, and if he plays well in the preseason, I feel like Winston could be had for a song if anyone is out there.
Yeah, speaking of that, surprised me. But I read Eric Edholm, who we just had on the show, did a nice kind of ramp up to preseason week 1 on NFL.com. Check it out. And he noted that there's a real battle here for QB2, and if Winston goes from starting quarterback to can't even be the backup, yeah, it makes a lot of sense for a bunch of teams who are looking for a guy that has experience and some level of skill.
It just seemed like between him and
Whatever it
Dennis
is.
Allen, like last year, things just seemed a little weird behind the scenes. I'm almost surprised he's even still there.
I am very surprised he's still there. Chiefs actually have like a decent amount of interesting position battles. We mentioned Deneric Prince, Rishi Rice, rookies.
Justin Ross.
First Jake at quarterback since Locker.
Plummer.
Locker was after Plummer.
Delhomme.
Jake Delhomme.
Brisket.
Jacoby, but yeah.
No, he's Jake Brisket.
Yeah.
To us anyway. Finally, San Francisco at Las Vegas. Oh,
It's the Battle of the Bay.
Yeah, there you go. Sam, this is it, bud. Trey Lance versus Sam Darnold is how I see this. Who's going to be the backup / waiting in the wings if Brock Purdy struggles or isn't physically right, and then hold on tight if you get a chance to play in a game that matters. I'm excited. And the Trey Lance of it all remains to me intriguing because of his pedigree and
I'm not like
stands.
I've become almost convinced that Shanahan prefers Sam Darnold at this point. That not unlike Jameis Winston, is the whole end game here to maybe move Trey Lance because other teams know nothing about him, but there's all this potential. And like if they're going to move one of them, it could be him. But won't see Brock Purdy. But I'm actually really interested to see Sam Darnold after his head coach called him a Steve Young lookalike in the offense. Is that just hyperbole to try to stir up Trey Lance, or
I
what?
don't know. You guys would get mad at me whenever I even brought him up in recent years, but Kyle Shanahan starts talking him up, and now it's like,
yeah, but
I got to see this guy.
Yeah, but when you pair him with Shanahan, you've got me.
Gregg's out here saying that Sam Darnold's the biggest bust in the history of the quarterback position in the NFL.
A couple good moments last year.
I said he was on the list. And
He never was on the list, but you said he was on the list.
He still is. The numbers say it. The numbers say he's been one of the very worst quarterbacks in the league since the minute he got drafted, and he was a top 5 pick. So what more do you need?
Because it's variables
At some
that
point,
go beyond just the statistics. It's the where he was.
Well, you think like Jimmy Clausen and all these other guys that are thought of as huge busts were like in great situations? No.
Well, I'm just saying in nuance that he actually can play. I think he can if he gets the opportunity. I don't think Clausen could play no matter where you put him.
Inconsistent, but you can see it.
I think he had a 5
he
game.
gets a chance.
He had a 5 game stretch last year that was easily better than any 5 game stretch of his career, where he looked like a decent backup.
Well, I hope he gets a job, and I hope he sticks it to Rosenthal.
Well, his numbers will be great. Nick Mullins, has like a higher yards per attempt to start his career than any quarterback in NFL history. It's like you get out of bed with 8 yards per attempt in this offense.
Yeah, I'd mentioned that last week. Whoever's the quarterback, this offense is going to be good. But Darnold is Steve Young that throws righty, so it's like maybe go with him.
Sam Darnold.
All he said was, why couldn't he be another Steve Young? Which is like,
why
he's
couldn't he?
Already 4 or 5 years into his career, it was a little like people didn't think of Steve. Young.
Given how easy it is for a quarterback to thrive in this offense, make Sam Darnold throw lefty. Really make him Steve Young.
Sure. Well, Steve Young was also kicking butt in the USFL. It wasn't like he had
Right, and
vanished off the radar.
and the 49ers actually gave up, I believe, a lot for Steve Young, whereas Sam Darnold was freely available for low price.
I'll give you something freely available. All right, that's it. So we'll be back on Monday with kind of a look back at all of these games, and we'll see what we can take from them.
We're gonna step into the competition cauldron on Monday. I'm excited for that.
Exactly. Also, big week coming up.
Why?
Fantasy extravaganza coming up next week. Right?
I don't think so.
I thought we moved it up to August.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, I missed that.
Hello.
A lot of guests. Big
For some
lineup.
reason, I thought it was the following week.
No, well, originally it was, and then we kind of said, maybe we'll set it up to make sure we give as many people the chance to listen to it before the draft.
Good producing.
So we have that show coming up with a bevy of high-end, top-tier guests. Greg, you helped build Roto World brick by brick. We're gonna have to reach out to some heavy hitters. We got some big dogs in-house with NFL Media. That's coming up on Wednesday. And yes,
I should call my buddy Chris Johnson, see if he's available.
He was on a magazine cover.
Best friends.
That Greg guy, he was different. I like that guy.
Trip validated.
Heed the call.